Welcome to Money 911, where we replace anxiety with peace of mind and lead with wisdom and love. Today is an activation. We are joined by Nina Sunday, award-winning educator, CSB speaker, and author of Manage Self, Lead Others. Nina believes conversations create culture and culture creates outcomes. Together, we'll practice the language of alchemy, how to turn tension into trust, feedback into fuel, and everyday moments into a culture you can't fake. Breathe in courage, breathe out clarity. Let's begin. All right, Nina Sunday, it's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Kris. And we caught up in Dallas a few months ago in person, and
Right.
we co-presented at a conference together. So it
Yeah.
is an absolute delight to be talking to you on your podcast today.
It's amazing, isn't it? And then you're down under right now, right? Isn't that amazing?
Exactly. Yeah, the different time zone.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely different. It reminds me of that song, Hands Across the Water. Right.
Very nice.
Okay. Well, let's just get right into it. You have such great conversation. And I wanted to ask you, what is one conversation that reshaped a team's culture in a single week? And what signal changed?
Okay, now are you talking about a one-on-one conversation, or are you talking about a conversation with a team?
With the team. Yeah.
And are you talking about a conversation that I had?
Yes.
All right. Well, there was a time when I had 5 full-time salespeople and 3 event coordinators and facilitators around the country, right?
Right.
So I had a proper team. And look, I talk about this in my book. I really didn't focus on culture. I focused on results. It was a slow burn to realize that if you focus on purpose and culture, well, I actually had a misunderstanding of culture. I thought it was, taking them out to lunch and events like that, right?
Right.
But that's all right. I saw the light. Eventually, I saw the light.
Right.
But it's about what you read and what prompts you. And these days it's what you listen to on podcasts. But I am a reader. And one book I read called The Happiness Centered Business by actually a Brisbane dentist of all people, Paddy Lund, Dr. Paddy Lund, he said, we don't go up and have people get their own coffees one by one. We actually sit down most days and have a group morning tea.
Hmm.
And I went, what a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know I used to see salespeople walk really slowly over the kitchen area,
Right.
and they're standing there having a
Right.
break while they're having their coffee, and then they walk slowly back. And I went, look, why don't we just do it all together? So I
Right.
started doing that, and that became, unless it was an emergency day, all hands on deck, if it was
Mm.
just a normal day around 11 o'clock, I would call it, I'd say time for morning tea. We call it morning tea in Australia. I
Right.
don't know, you call it morning coffee. They can have whatever they like, tea,
Right.
coffee, any beverage. And we would sit down around the conference table and just chat about our lives. One woman had a teenager going through final exams. We had one intern that was, going for her final exams as a student. Or sometimes I had illness in the family. We could give them a little bit of moral support or really just share their joy. They're planning for a holiday. But what I would do, what it evolved into was I would say mini meeting, and that would be the cue to stop chatting and we'd just have a 5-minute meeting.
Hmm.
And we became, number one, more efficient because I was having a daily meeting because people would have, I had people on school hours, so they wouldn't be arriving like on the dot of 9, and some people would be on the dot of 9. Mini meeting, but also what is good about culture is we are supposed to understand, especially the boss, is supposed to understand what's happening in people's lives. And we may not have time to do the one-on-ones to find that out, but it's non-threatening, It's non-invasive. You're not prying,
Hmm.
and you're just really finding out what's happening in people's lives, and that creates culture. It
That's
definitely
great.
does.
That's great.
And that became, well,
Hmm.
I still do it now. I have a couple of assistants, and we always break for coffee and sit and chat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So, okay. So we're kind of talking about culture, right? If it had a soundtrack, right? What would a healthy team sound like? And how do leaders DJ that vibe daily?
You mean you want a song?
Yeah. A healthy team. What does it sound like?
Well, one of my favorite songs is a Beatles song, Good Day Sunshine. I
Yeah.
mean, really, it's
Yeah.
about you got to have a good day, you got to have sunshine. And what you can do is you can bring sunshine into people's lives. And I'll give you an example. And I've actually started doing this with when I deliver workshops on culture.
Uh-huh.
It's about showing appreciation. We go out for lunch before Christmas here in Australia. Take the team out for lunch, and I prepared these coloured sheets of paper, which is one thing I appreciate about Dash, and there was one for everybody, including myself, and so each person was handed their first blank. Right, and they filled in their name, and then there were numbers down the side, and we had about 6 people for that lunch, and each person had to write and then pass it on, write down something about the person whose name is at the top of the sheet. Now, the comment was anonymous, but the point is, by the end, you got your sheet back with 6 populated comments on it about something specific that someone else in the team appreciated about you. And
Hmm.
what's interesting about that is everybody said something different but relevant,
Right.
and it made you feel $1 million.
Right.
And I had an office manager. Eventually, she was actually with me for 17 years all up, through 2 office moves. And the first sheet that we ever did like that, she had at the back of her desk, like on the wall beside her desk, through 2 office moves. That's how much she valued it.
Wow. And that would just reset everybody's brain to be looking for something good in the person instead of cutting them down, right?
Exactly,
That is
exactly.
so
And so
good.
I now, if we have a workshop on emotional intelligence, that's one of the activities that I do with the group. And
Right.
then we'll put them all up on the wall for the duration of the workshop, and then they take theirs and take it with them, and they do with it what they will. So it's about
Right.
showing appreciation, but in a way that's visible.
Yeah, that is really good. Well, what's one sentence that can upgrade or turn a hard truth to a healing truth?
And can you just say that question again? I didn't quite catch it.
A one sentence upgrade. You're dealing with some hard truths, right?
Oh, right. So,
And you want to
well,
shift it into a healing truth,
oh, yes. Well,
right?
this is actually a bit of a catchphrase that I use when I'm talking to leaders, and I'll say, workplace culture hides in plain sight. Is yours flourishing? And
Mm.
you see, there is no absence of culture. Culture is whatever it is, and even if they don't focus on it, the lack of focus is part of the culture.
Right,
And especially leaders who, well, in DISC, we talk about high dominant leaders who think that they have all the answers. They'll go to the team with their answers and expect the team to follow instructions and just execute.
right,
Whereas in change, we say, go to your team with questions and get them to offer their suggestions. And what you do is you focus or emphasize the answers that match yours, and you go with those. So
right.
it's just
That's
giving people the sense that they're making a contribution. If you go with someone else's contribution, they'll take ownership of it. And look, even President Reagan apparently was very, very good at giving credit to other people, and he created absolute loyalty because he didn't say that was my idea. He'd say, "Oh,
yes,
that's so and so's idea," and
exactly.
that they will have loyalty and advocacy for you forever.
That's really a good one. I'll remember that. Um, Now let's walk through the behavior, feeling, impact, requests, right? Your BFIR model. And and as you talk about, why don't you walk us through that? And then where do most leaders stumble?
Well, here's the funny thing. In my book, I do talk about that being the model that was given to me by a Royal Australian Air Force leadership instructional designer who designed our very first leadership program. And I got ex-Royal Australian Air Force facilitators to actually deliver that program. But after many years of talking to clients about the program, and occasionally that facilitator wouldn't be available, I would volunteer to actually lead it. And I became quite skilled at leading it. And
Mhm,
I used to say, well, uh, what I've learned is that you say, look, we'll take something really easy, like we're late to the meeting, and we're not going to worry about whether they're regularly late. Just pick one instance, right? Because it's
mhm.
easier than, well, you never say never and you never say always. You don't say you're always late for meetings. You say you pick one specific example.
Right.
And what I learned, and it did help me to say what I was avoiding saying because I didn't know what to say. But when I started using it, it almost is a bit of a sledgehammer, really. It's a bit of a fire hose because you kind of say it all at once, which is when you were late to our meeting, I felt frustrated, F feeling, impact, because the team felt obliged to stop mid conversation and fill you in on what we had been talking about and what the question was. And we felt that we lost time. And result, is there any, would you be willing to make sure that you're at the start there before the start of the meeting, please? Uh, how does that sound? Now,
Mhm,
that is four parts to the framework and then throwing it back to them, what's your feeling?
mhm.
I interviewed on my podcast a mediator, Scott Dutton, and we were talking about uh, constructive conversations and don't call them difficult, call them constructive. And he said, oh, I would never do that. He said, all I would do is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but when you were late to the meeting, we all stopped what we were discussing. We kind of felt obliged to just to spend a few minutes briefing you, and we all lost about 5 minutes. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that. End
Mm,
of story.
right.
And I laughed and I said, well, the BFIR sounds like a bit of a sledgehammer compared to yours, which is more like a nudge, a little tickle
Right.
with a feather. But you
Right.
see, it was given to me by the Royal Australian Air Force. Now, they're not army, they're not do this or else. They're
Right.
very much into this is what happened. Would you be willing to follow orders? And
Right.
so really it was more from defense and it was a fire hose essentially. But there are times when you need that. So I
Mhm.
call it the continuum of constructive conversations. There's the first one, which is just a nudge, and then you move along. You might need to give them something more specific because it's maybe they're not hearing what you're
Right.
saying. And then, of course, I've got an interview in my podcast with a human, what is it? A human resources business partner who does performance management conversations and warnings, and that's like chop chop.
Right. Right. Well, that's a lot nicer than, why are you late? I mean, that's so creative. It's like a moment where you choose between a feather. Maybe you've got one of those, right? Describe a moment between choosing between a feather and avoiding a hammer and how it
Well, there is another
shift,
way
right?
because if you did want to ask somebody why they were late, you wouldn't use the word why because why is like a spotlight and an interrogation. You
Mm,
start with, I'm curious. And you probably wouldn't do it in front of everyone else because it might humiliate them. So
right.
in Asia, they have the concept of face. People want to save face, and you
Right.
never want to, what is it, discipline in public? You want to discipline privately. But what you can do is find a quiet moment and say, I'm curious. What was the reason you weren't able to get here for the start of the meeting? And so it's I'm curious, pause, take a breath,
Mhm.
and what was the reason, not why.
Oh, that's
And so
good.
because otherwise the why question, they end up feeling judged, blamed, they might deny that there was an issue. It creates conflict. So
That's
or friction.
amazing. Just a few tweaks. Boy, I'm going to use that
Oh,
with my assistants because it could, it just throws things into the different, you know,
look,
pattern.
it goes back a couple of decades where I did my first course in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and became
Right.
a practitioner. It's hours and hours
Yeah.
and days of
Right.
it's a joy. It's a joy to learn all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I started learning the impact uh, of and the influence of choosing the right words.
Right.
And and you also have to rehearse those words or get used to using them because there'd be times when I'd say something blah blah and I walk away and I would reflect and go, oh, I didn't quite get the reaction that I wanted. Now,
Right.
people with low emotional intelligence don't reflect on the emotional nonverbal reaction that their
Mhm.
words had. So this is a message to those leaders or managers who just say what they think and then go, oh, well, that's just me. I'm sorry. That's just me doesn't cut it anymore,
No.
especially with the new generation coming through.
Right.
If you offend them, they will stay offended, or you have to be willing to apologize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So if a team's nervous system, right, could talk, what would it ask the leaders to stop or start this week?
Well, when I think back, all right, here's a good example. An Australian company sent me over to the UK to do selling skills with their continent UK and continental team. We had 30 people in the room from all the countries in Europe, just one person and a couple from the UK. And in private, one person said to me, thank you for giving us tools to sell better because our CEO, all he does is say, hey guys, you just got to sell more and doesn't give them any tools or any ideas. Well, finally, the head office, Australia, gave them a trainer to actually, we went through everything. And what I do like doing is finding out what uh, the top performers say and do. Because mostly the lower performers have no idea. And of course, sometimes the managers don't have any idea as well. So that's why getting people in the room, doing knowledge sharing, and saying, what do you say when this happens? What do you say? Or working in partners. And then start, I use flip charts because you don't wipe them off, you can keep them and you bring them out later. We
Mm.
just start talking about instead of, keep doing this or don't, this stop, start, and keep. Stop saying this, start saying that, or keep saying that, especially
Mm.
with the high performers. It's innate in them to know exactly the right thing to say at the right time.
Wow.
And but I'll tell you something, sometimes they don't know what they're doing right. In my youth, I had a couple of sales jobs. This is after giving up teaching. I went into different careers.
Yeah.
Between teaching and going to film school, I had a couple of sales jobs. One was selling cinema advertising, and I remember my sales manager, who was an incredible salesperson, took me out, and this was like all local business, local industry. And he would just go blah 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 blah, get the deal, and say, "See how easy it is." I didn't know what he did right. He couldn't tell me what he did right. I just went, well, I can't do that. That's you.
Hmm.
So he didn't
Right.
empower me.
Yeah.
He didn't empower me with analysis of, I said this, I said this, I said this. In those days, we didn't have dictaphones.
Right.
Because
Oh,
I
that's just,
frequently
yeah.
will record my own conversation when I'm on the phone. You can't record someone else's, but I can record my own and I can listen back and hear, how did I handle that? I could have handled it better. So that's emotional intelligence, the ability to reflect on how could I have expressed myself better? And I'm always learning from my own mistakes.
Right. I've created the Safe Money Blueprint. This is the same strategy that thousands of my clients have used to feel secure about their financial future. And you can get it free at healthymoneyhappylife.com/blueprint. I really like the way that how you've woven NLP and really heartful listening to how you're talking. I mean, who does that? And I bet your teams were fabulous. Well,
In
what
the end,
huh? What's that?
oh yes, in the end, I had some fabulous teams. You know
I bet you
you know
did.
the best thing I ever learned
Huh? What?
was do not hire a friend of a friend, right?
Okay.
I actually learnt
Uh,
to put an ad and do a group interview and pick. Well, actually, the trick is to actually let them self-select. I tell them, uh, SMS me in 2 days' time if you would like to take the next step. And I always hope that the person I want is early. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they are not. When I say early, I mean 9 a.m. start of business hours, because sometimes I was determined to have one person. This is like for a junior assistant, but I'll get it for an office manager, anybody. A junior assistant I wanted, and he didn't reply until 4 o'clock.
hmm.
I said, "Oh, is there any reason you didn't SMS us earlier?" "Oh, I forgot.
Oh,
I
well,
hired him.
yeah.
Lasted 2 weeks. He wasn't keen." And then I went back to my list. I keep a list of what time they SMS. The
Oh,
woman that SMS'd at 9:01, she was so good. She stayed about 9 months. She was excellent.
yeah, yeah. That is so
Well,
cool.
that's when I say 9 months. It was
Yeah.
only supposed to be a part-time internship, but
Oh,
she was a graduate that didn't want a corporate job. So
right.
for her, this was the perfect middle ground, and she was waiting to go overseas again,
Yeah.
to be with other people overseas. So, you get the right people at the right time.
Right. Well, so tell me, what is your favorite micro ritual to pre-wire safety before like a high stakes one-on-one?
Well, I tell you what I've learned, and I don't mean this to be a plug, but it's true. I interviewed John Kennedy, who's a neuroscientist, a neurophysiologist, and he has this program with graphics
Hmm.
that only take 90 seconds to go through. And now, like, say it's Monday morning, and the first thing I have to do is do an invoice, and that's the last thing I want to do first thing Monday morning. But my brain's not in gear yet. I'll just do the little it's naming certain symbols and colors. And if you go to John Kennedy, he's on a number of podcasts, and he's on my podcast, Manage Self Lead Others.
He's been on
He'll talk
mine and
about his
yeah.
work, and
Right.
he's probably been on your podcast, Kris,
Yep.
has he?
Yep.
Yes. Well,
And
he
I,
can go
I've
to
been
your.
trained and he trained my sister and I have him like on my thing, but I was like, okay, I'll do that tomorrow for a few years. I'm bad. I'm bad. I
Oh
haven't
yes,
done
yeah.
my homework lately. So
I was
I
just looking for them. Look, I've done them before I came on this. I do it before every podcast episode.
yeah.
And I find, and the proof came to me. I was interviewing a regular client, a regular podcast guest, and I think at the time I was a little bit smug, and I think I even said to John, "Oh, John, I don't have any mental problems asking questions, blah blah blah."
Right.
And so anyway, I thought, oh, well, as an experiment, I'll try it before this episode. And at the end of the episode, the speaker said, the guest said, "Nina, we've had several conversations for the podcast. This was the best we've ever had. It flowed like butter." And I went, "Ah, it practice proves it. That proves it, because it was someone that I knew. I was used to asking questions. But the good thing is, now this is the thing about talent versus the days that you don't not feeling it. Okay,
Right.
one of the things I've met junior actors in my time that'll say, "Oh, I don't need lessons," and Tom
Yeah.
Cruise and
Right.
Dustin Hoffman, they all went to acting school, right?
Right.
And the principle is, on a good day, your talent will fly. But on a bad day, when you've got a headache or you've got the flu, you're not feeling well, but you're still booked and you have to be there, Your craft carries you. So I'm saying these little mental uh, brain training carries me on a day where maybe I'm not really firing on all cylinders.
Right. Well, that's like um the self-leadership, you know, even like when you're exhausted or overextended and there you're intuitive about that, where that starts and how you don't get mad at everybody around you, but you're able to communicate. I think you talked about the 5 levels of feedback, from the feather touch to the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And what is the misuse level, and what does the right sizing look like?
You mean misused feedback?
Yeah, misuse level, and with from the feather touch the sledgehammer
Yeah.
of the
Well,
feedback, right?
the thing is, it's managers that just say what they think without learning about the quality of making language intentional. And it's a bit like I got the I'm curious not only from a couple of guests, but I read the Harvard Business Review uh, series on emotional intelligence,
Mm.
and there was one on self-awareness that really gave a few clues on what to say and how to say it. And they were the ones that said, don't start a question with why. Why did you do that? Just say what was the reason. And then I've added the I'm curious. Now,
Oh, that's great.
I go right back to my very early days as a soul operator. I read the very first edition of a very thin edition of Michael Gerber's E-Myth. He subsequently made it the E-Myth Revisited and made it very thick. But I reckon if you can get that initial thin book on second hand through Amazon, that's the one to read. Because what he said was when people make a mistake, it's not because they did a bad job or that they forgot, it's because you didn't have systems in place.
Mm.
So I learnt very early that you don't have somebody where they just do the job the way they do it and it's all in their head. You if they are doing it, get them to write it down as a checklist. And occasionally, because I've had some people that stay for years, I'll say, is what you're doing now the same or different to that checklist that we used when you first arrived? So, oh, it's very different now. Would you please update the checklist? Because you've obviously improved it. And
Right.
I had to be mindful that there are people just doing their own thing and forgetting about the checklist. Now, I'll give you an example where I had someone whose part of their role was to call back clients straight after they'd done a workshop with us. And I'll just have a sip. Got to keep the voice lubricated.
Yes. Right.
so so I had a junior whose job was to follow. I don't call it a script. I call it a what to say guide, right? Because
Mhm.
it's exactly the right words. And in the days when we wanted them to uh, do a LinkedIn recommendation, the script would include, how was it, any feedback, all that. And then towards the end, you'd say, would you be willing to do a LinkedIn recommendation if we email you the link? I heard him say, would you be interested to do a LinkedIn recommendation? And I went, there's a big difference between would you be willing to and would you be interested to? And interested to is a no, and would you be willing to is possibly a yes. So he'd forgotten. See, that's why I say it's not a script, but just before you start the day, just read over it so you don't go off track. It's
Yeah.
so easy. In his head, that meant the same thing. Well, it does not. It doesn't get the same outcome.
Yeah. Boy, that's just so creative. I didn't really realize it's not my line of country. The depth of how, I mean, this is brilliant stuff. Well, okay, here's one. I could use this one. What's the kindest way to deliver a hard truth?
Oh, well, okay. Story comes to mind.
Okay.
I I should have known better. My gut said she's wrong. I hired a person for the role. We needed someone quick. See, that's the death knell. The trouble is that's like saying I need to get married quick. Because once you hire someone, it's like a marriage. Right?
Right.
It's very hard to get rid of them if it's not right.
Right,
That's
right.
why I have a whole recruitment process now. But
Mhm.
but I've made lots of mistakes along the way. Anyway,
Right.
that's fine. As she continued to work for 2 weeks, it wasn't working. All right. So I called her into the conference room one on one and I said, how's it going? And blah, blah, blah. I just have to get this right. I probably just said a few things, blah, blah. And I said, are you enjoying working here? And is it the job for you? Is it, do we need to do anything different? Is it the role for you? But what I remember was she kind of, whatever I asked, she kind of took a breath and sort of puffed herself up and she kind of slumped back in the chair and she went, no, Nina, it's not.
Mm.
And I went, oh, this is easy.
Okay.
I said, and all I said was, well, you know what you can do. You know what you have to do.
Right.
She
Right.
said, yes. And then she revealed to me, Nina, I knew it wasn't right, but my husband said we need the money and I have to stay.
Ah, man, and then that's great because you get her to say the thing instead of
She
you.
self-selected herself
There you
out.
go. There you go.
I just asked enough questions.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have to say, this isn't right, blah,
Right.
blah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, here's one more that I bet you I'll use this one too. A script to reframe a heated moment in 10 seconds or less.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Bruce Sullivan because he's in my book and he taught me about the two agreements. It depends on, is this a one-on-one? Is this someone that's come up to you in anger? I mean, what's the scenario? Are you having a conversation or have they interrupted your day to go
You work with
to
them. You're
roar at you?
working with them and
Yeah.
they just keep doing these things that create the heat, make you angry, get you
Okay,
in the
so
moment.
my suggestion is always say, can we just stop for a moment? And can we just go and sit down and have a chat for a moment? So you got to pattern interrupt,
Right.
right? You
Right.
you interrupt you don't lead from the side. You don't do it while the moment is happening. You get them out of the moment,
Mm,
right?
good. Yeah.
And then what you do is you say, it's important to me that we have a positive working relationship and a positive workplace culture. Can I ask you, is that important to you too?
Right.
And they'll want to divert. And they'll say, oh, we're not here to talk about that. Before we talk about anything, let's just confirm that our goal is to have a positive working relationship. Now, if they can't say yes to that, you say, well, let's not continue the conversation. Let's reconvene in a couple of days. And you don't continue on. But
Okay.
they have to say, yes, it's important to me that we have a positive working relationship because, look, I've been watching those viral videos, and one of them said, "Can ask somebody if you can I trust you?" And if they can't say full bore, yes, I can. Yes, I'm trustworthy. If they have to think about it, they're not trustworthy.
Right.
And I went, that's really good advice. So
Yeah.
that's the same principle.
Right.
Is it important to you that where you work you have a positive working relationship with the people? Whatever is the question. It's not, let's sort this problem out. Let's
Mhm.
go to an overarching principle of positive working relationship is important. And if they can't say yes to that, well, then don't continue the conversation. Only have it when they are willing to say yes to that. Or,
Right.
well, then you have to take some other action, perhaps.
Right. Right. Good point. Nina, Sunday, tell everybody how they can get your book. What's going on with that?
Well, it's on Amazon. And it's Kindle, so you can get it as an ebook. It's paperback. I'll be organizing the audiobook in the weeks to come. So uh, and yeah, so and if you're in Australia and you go to an event of mine, I'm going to a conference on the weekend. You can buy it there. But no, it's going great guns, and basically it's I've referenced the top 50 episodes from my own podcast as a trigger for my discussion of stories of my mistakes as a leader and how I learnt. Exactly the sort of questions you asked, although your questions are so great, Kris.
Thank you.
They're they're worth an ebook in themselves.
Oh, well, I hope that it'll bless many people and you. And if I think we could just talk forever. You just have to come back because this is a lot of fun. And I'm learning a lot and learning that I wish I would have known this, a couple
Well,
decades ago, but this is
well,
very
I've got my speaker site is ninasunday.com.
right.
My training site for Australia, New Zealand, Asia is brainpowertraining.com.au for Australia.
Okay.
Um,
Your book
but of course,
title.
I get over to the States every now and again. So if someone wanted me to lead workshops with their teams, it just has to coincide with when I'm going to be there, which is usually mid-year in June.
Right.
And I've got a Substack now that I'm starting and growing. Nina Sunday, what is it? ninasunday.substack.com. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm there on the net.
And the name of your book again is for those that might be driving or listening and
Well,
not
it's Manage
seeing.
Self Lead Others, based on the
Manage
podcast, but
self,
it's
lead others.
constructive conversations, true self leadership, and culture you can't fake.
That is so good. That is so good, Nina. I really love you and I really enjoy our conversation. Seriously, we'll do
Love
another
you
deep.
too. Love
Oh,
you heaps.
you come back, come to California next time. We can have some fun,
All right, I
right?
will. I
Right.
will.
I actually have an opportunity, but I don't think you'd need a few others to come with speaking things that'll, we'll
Well,
get
we'll talk about that
we'll get you
offline.
back. But everybody needs to get a hold of you because you you just have to have that conversation in the
Oh,
workplace.
I do 2 hours just on persuasion and influencing with integrity. I did it with 31 people, and 100% said it was completely valuable.
I
I got a
could get it.
five out of five from 31 people.
I
Yeah.
believe it. Absolutely. You're a 5 out of 5 for sure.
Oh,
Nina,
thank you.
thank
Thank you,
you so
sweetheart,
much,
Chris.
Nina. It's been a true joy talking to you today.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all mine, Chris. Thank
All
you.
right.
Friends, every word is a seed. Plant clarity, water with care, and watch your culture blossom. If today served you, share this with one leader ready to lead with love. For a peace of mind money conversation with me, visit meetwithchrismiller.com. Live your legacy now.
There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithchrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.